Well, y'all, Miss Josephine the Cat has been hanging outside with me in the sprinkles. I just have been out here. Well, I don't know, guys. Maybe I'm the only person weird enough to be outside hoeing a garden in the rain with the sprinkler on. I turned it off. But we've been just getting more of a dusting, and I had committed to making sure my beans get really well watered today. So if you can see, this is an area that I've sprinkled. Well, I don't know how well you can tell how dark it is, but over there, it's like the water is just barely hitting the ground, you know. So I've been getting started with just this thing. Now, because I am working in sprinkled ground, even I was under the sprinkler even working this thing, and it felt so good. Honestly, I'd much rather be working in weather like this under some water than out in the hot sun. So I am gonna have to come back and deal with this some more tomorrow, but I did make some headway. It's hard to tell how much headway because some of the bigger things that I whacked up are still green. But I just wanted to say, though, I abused this thing and it's all bent up because I used it to try to pull a big old grass clump up. Well, I've learned, first of all, that if I have a grass clump, I need to whack it with the flat ends to bust it up. But I think when I was using it and it was pulling up the vines real good, it just gave me the idea to try to pull the grass clump. And now it's all messed up. But I know some people say, hula hoe is the way to go. It's what was recommended to me, also called the stirrup hoe. But, for me, this thing is working real good so far. I am used to having just like a clawed thing and like a screwdriver to weed kind of by hand kneeling down. And I much prefer this for a large area. Even some of my big burdocks that were putting out big stems, I was just able to give it a couple of whacks with the flat end of this thing to bust them down so they wouldn't get too out of control. And I feel like I'm pretty happy with that. Whereas if I'd had to go get a different tool to do that, I just wouldn't have done it, and then they would have been real crazy. I haven't really done a good job in through here. I just whacked some burdocks and some of the bigger thistles. This area isn't planted yet, except for Josephine stepping on my bell peppers right now. Getting ready to step on my bell peppers. Josephine. Oh, you're trying to play so innocent. She apparently likes it over there. That's where she was hanging out earlier. She's like kind of only halfway under the sprinkles because of the tree. But anyways, I'm just surprised because, clearly doing this, trying to get up these weeds this way without spraying stuff is not the fastest or easiest thing, though it's not necessarily difficult. It's simple. It's just consuming and uses up energy, but it's quite enjoyable in this weather under the water, I gotta say. And I got a lot left to go, but I feel like I might be able to manage this. Basically every single time I do this and scrape up some little weed seeds, because if you're gonna see, I have that's a bean, and then all these little things are all these weed seeds popping up. Now, not all of my beans have finished sprouting, so I haven't gotten super good in between them yet, but I do want to pop up all them little baby weeds before they get really established. But basically, every time I do this, disrupt the soil, and it gets water, it's gonna be all year. I'm just gonna have entire, like, battalions of little baby weeds popping up. So, this first go around is probably gonna be the most time consuming. Because I am going to be watering throughout the year, because I'm trying to maximize my harvest for this year, and I also want to stress test my water table. I actually decided I'm not going to stop watering once the water starts shooting out of the hill. I'm just going to keep watering when I feel like my crops need it throughout the heat and everything, and try to stress my water table, because I kind of am towards the end of this aquifer. I'm going to just stress it out just a little bit and see when I run out of water, because I have a shallow well here. So I actually have one of the shallower wells here, and I'm kind of at the end of this aquifer, and I just want to see what happens. You know, I've spent a summer here without running water before, so if I have to do it again, I'm going to do it again, but I just want to see kind of what happens, and if I run out of water or not, or what happens. Because depending on what happens, then I can kind of decide on how to prioritize investing in being able to irrigate from the creek over there, because I'm going to need, you know, a good pump and a lot of hosing to get all the way from the creek over to the back hill and things like that. And it's something that I was thinking was going to maybe be more like 5 years down the road. But depending on how much kind of like income I can make from this place over the next couple of years, I might try to bump it up on the priorities a little bit if I basically don't have enough water to keep things optimized over the summer. So anyways, I'm kind of going on a ramble again, but I just want to say that despite me kind of using this thing the wrong way to pry up some grass roots that were just real stuck in, it is kind of nice because, you know, the hula hula, you kind of do this back and forth thing. Well, this thing, the flat end, I can either just totally whack something down, or I can do back and forth, or because the ground is kind of muddy right now, I can just use the little forky part to kind of do back and forth to bust out some of these little babies. Now, I'm kind of holding I can't do it right now because I'm holding my tablet with the other hand. I don't have a GoPro or anything. But I'm feeling pretty happy with this thing. The reason why I got it again is because I had all these root clumps that were really thick. Some of them, although I've got some zombie grass popping up from the roots, some of them are starting to rot down a little bit. But I needed to use this thing because I hand planted this area, most of it. So I was using the corner of this, you know, to basically dig my trenches to put my beans in. And then over there, you know, I was just using the little forky part to pull back all these grass clump roots so that I could actually push my push seeder through without it getting stuck on the grass clumps every 6 inches. Because basically with that thing, what will end up happening is when you stop it, sometimes it'll spit out like 8 seeds. You know, and it doesn't space out the seeds right when it's constantly getting stuck up on grass root clumps. So this thing has already been serving me really well, and I do need to bend that other fork back, but I'm happy. You know, when I go to make my little trenches with this, it's going to help me out because, you know, I've got the Lyme arthritis that gets pretty bad sometimes. And when I have to be kneeling down all the time and then having to try to stand back up, it's not always fun. So this thing has been handy so far. Anyways, I'm going to maybe stop getting my device sprinkled on. It's like almost over already. And it's like this area even here is just like barely damp. Like you can see the landscape fabric, I guess I'll go ahead and show you guys, because I'm not sure that everybody uses it the way I do, where they're not putting mulch on top of it. But I know some other nurseries do it this way. So it's advertised as supposed to be very permeable with no puddling, even though it's supposed to keep the light out to keep the weeds from popping up. I'm more concerned about keeping the weeds from popping up because, you know, for me, the consideration that I have to make is like, if my health like hits the wall for a little while and I'm down and out, an area can get completely overrun with weeds very quickly. So it's one thing if my beans get a little bit overrun and I lose a year of beans, but when I'm trying to get this nursery going and getting mother plants established, I don't want to be, you know, losing all the progress on my plants from them getting completely overrun. And this whole area has just been getting weed seeds dropped on it for, you know, quite a long time. So I feel like this is going to help enable me to succeed. It's like sometimes you got to put a little bit more money in, and I'm not going to spend the money to mulch this area or anything this year because some of these, like every other CM body and every other giant colewort, are eventually going to get popped up out of the ground and relocated one of these times when they're kind of hibernating, I guess, or before winter or super early spring. So this is kind of not like a super finalized thing, but even if they kind of grew kind of close together, it would be okay for a couple years if they weren't completely overrun by weeds. So I feel like this is gonna make a big difference for me, and I'm hopeful. But in the meantime, I'm gonna be seeing if I can try to get to a place where I'm cycling through my entirety of my adzuki bean planting spaces every week or every week and a half, getting it weeded. So we'll see how it goes. I've never really tried to pull in a harvest from this many row crops before, like ever in my life. Although I planted the entire back hill, I just kind of let it go, and I had them super widely spaced, because I was really trying to get that, uncomposted pig poop burnt up back hill fertile again. And it did work great. And then the beans got, the whole plant body, everything all got tilled under. And that area is super fertile and also now abundantly covered in weed seeds. So I got my work cut out for me, but I feel like at least I got started on this, and I'm not sure how much time I'm going to have to put in basically every single day if I want to keep my weeds under control. I was saying earlier that maybe, I should at least be able to get like at least, well, if it works out at all, because, the largest guaranteed harvest of anything is 0 pounds. Because you just don't know what the wildlife are going to do, or what the weather's going to do, or what. But, before I got the broader space worked out, I was figuring I could harvest at least 50 pounds. But the thing is when you irrigate crops like beans, you can really multiply your harvest many times over. So if I just water well and keep it weeded, I could really extend the amount of time that I have to plant a larger amount of beans, because the beans will stay good for eating for a long time. Now, I will want to plant them enough for seed every day often to keep my seed fresh. But if I could pull in if I could pull in 200 pounds of beans this year or more, that would be crazy. I have serious doubts, but I do have hopes. So we'll see how it goes. Anyways, weeding under some sprinkles is awesome. And if you've never tried it, I'd encourage you to. Now you will get, I had 1.5 inches of mud, because I've also been sprinkling through here with the water. I had 1.5 inches of mud stuck up on the bottom of my shoes for a little while, but it looks like part of my shoe mud cake has fallen off. So it helps. But yeah, it was lots of work. I think I probably got myself in over my head, and I'm just gonna, it's just my MO, I guess. I'm just gonna stress test this and see how I do, how my water table does, what the animals decide to do, because I've got that whole field next to me is full of beans. So if something comes through and mostly just eats my beans and leaves those beans alone, I'm gonna be real sad. But bad things have happened before, like when I planted tons of sweet corn and I didn't get a single ear for myself. So anyways, I guess this is my kind of late afternoon little diary entry for June 23rd, I believe it is. It's a Friday of 2023. Take it easy.